Hi, everyone. I'm Jan Mercer-Doms, the Vice President of U.S. Development with Join Mayshad. We are an ecosystem of brands for women by women, connecting women to each other and to the companies, causes, and organizations that champion equity for women professionally and personally. Please make sure to check us out on our YouTube channel at Join Mayshad and joinmayshad.com, where you too can learn more about how you can become a member, as together we revolutionize how professional women connect, engage, and do business together. This is a very special workshop that we have planned for you today, precisely because it really truly is designed to help you stand above and beyond others in your space. We know that one of the things that COVID has done for us is that it's forced us all to become a little bit more comfortable with how we connect and communicate in the online world. And with that said, everybody's in the online world. So the content that we have ready for you today helps you understand how to really truly set yourself apart, how to communicate your story in a really compelling way, and how to sell. Because let's face it, no matter if we have sales in our job description or not, we are constantly selling day in and day out to all of our stakeholders, to our family members, to our loved ones, to our friends, to our colleagues, to our clients, and to our employees, and honestly to ourselves as well. So let's get started. I'm thrilled and honored to introduce to you the woman who is responsible for bringing you this workshop today, our very own founding VIP member, Lynne Dominic. Lynne is the founder of Body Soul Beauty Boss. She herself is a serial entrepreneur, and in her previous corporate life, managed, mentored, motivated, and ran sales teams. She was a publisher with countless leading magazines, many of which we adore and love, like InStyle, Self, Martha Stewart, and Elle. Lynne, welcome.
Thank you so much, Jan. So this is a real pleasure for me. John Livesay, who is our special guest speaker today, he and I have been colleagues and friends for a very long time. We work together in the publishing industry. John is an exceptional, I'd say, super seller because he is able to find creative, strategic solutions to how you convey your story and your brand story to a consumer, to your clients. And that is what made him Condé Nast Salesperson of the Year. And that is what made him such an exceptional colleague to work with. I was on the East Coast. John was on the West Coast at the time. And we were in constant contact. And he's one of the most creative people I know. But he's also a person who understands the importance of authenticity. And I think as we're forced to do business in a very different way these days, we know that unless there is authenticity in our voice and in our message, it just doesn't work. So for me to be able to co-host with Jan and introduce you to John, it's such a pleasure. And I know you're going to get so much out of this masterclass. So I'm going to take it away. I'm going to give it to John to take this away and to lead us into how you convey your story better. And with that, my good friend, John Livesay.
Thank you.
An author. I forgot the fact that you've got a book, better selling through storytelling.
That's okay. When I was selling advertising for W Magazine, which Condé Nast owned at the time several years ago, as you can tell from this photograph, both Michael Phelps and I were much younger. He was at the height of his swimming career, and Speedo was in my territory. And I went to them and I said, I see you have a new line of sportswear coming out. Would you consider running that in my fashion magazine? And they said, no, we're going to run in a fitness magazine. And I said two magic words. So if you're going to take any notes, this would be the first thing you might want to write down. What if? Because what if takes us into our right brain where imagination and storytelling lives? And I said, what if we treated your sportswear like it was fashion? And we could have a fashion show around a hotel swimming pool outside, and you could invite Michael Phelps since he's on your payroll as a spokesperson. They loved the idea, and they ran some advertising with me, but more importantly for me as a former lifeguard, I got to meet Michael Phelps. And I said to him, Michael, everyone says you're so successful because your feet are like fins and your lung capacity is bigger than the average person. I'm guessing there's something else. And he said, oh, yes, John. When I was younger, my coach said to me, Michael, are you willing to work out on Sundays? Yes, coach. Great. We just got 52 more workouts in a year than your competitors. Now the question becomes for all of you, what are you willing to do that your competition isn't to get at the Olympic level of your business? And more importantly now, what are you willing to do that they haven't thought about doing yet? What I just did there was tell you a story, because stories pull us in. They're magnetic. We are literally all wired for storytelling. And the better you become at storytelling, the more memorable and magnetic you become. And that's how you break through the clutter and tug at people's heartstrings so they want to open their purse strings and either hire you or buy whatever it is you're selling. And as Lynn said, after my career at Condé Nast, I've been speaking to a lot of sales teams on how to become better storytellers. Because when that happens, especially when you have to compete against 2 or 3 other finalists, I know I have to do this as a speaker. I get, they look at my reel and they say, okay, it's between you and 1 or 2 other speakers. We'll have a conversation with you and you get your time to, quote, tell us why, pitch. We should pick you versus somebody else. So if you're in a business that you have to do that, or you're selling something online where you have to break through the clutter and you're looking for ways to pull people in without being pushy, then this is for you. Now, just real quick, how many of you might feel during this pandemic like an ostrich and you just want to bury your head and say, let me know when it's all over, please? Or how many of you say, you know what, I'm going to be a peacock? And when a peacock has danger, a predator, it makes itself big to scare off the predator. It also makes itself beautiful, which for Lynn and I and Jan, we love anything beautiful. So it's doing 2 things at once. So just really quick in the chat, post O or P. What do you feel like right now? Do you feel like an ostrich? You just want to bury your head? And sometimes it can change from hour to hour, day to day. But I just want to get a sense of what your mindset is during this time. A lot of peacocks, love to see that. Oh, okay. And it's okay, whatever you feel. It's just an awareness that we are the thinkers thinking the thought. And we control our thoughts. Our thoughts don't control us. And when we decide, I'm going to be a peacock today or on this call or whatever it is, then we come from a place of beauty and strength as opposed to fear and scarcity. Now, the big problem I see, and I've experienced this myself, is we've heard this phrase 100 times. Oh, in order to get someone to buy from you or hire you, you got to get them to know, like, and trust you, right? You've heard that 100 times. The problem with this belief is it causes a behavior. Our brain goes, okay, if I got to get you to know me first, let me push out a bunch of information about who I am and what the details are about my product and push, push, push. We're going to flip the script today. And we're going to start with trust. We need to build trust first. And that's a gut thing. Remember before the pandemic when we all used to shake hands? The handshake actually came about to show you didn't have a weapon in your hand. So how do we build trust today? Well, you can see how it just got transferred from Jan to Lynn to me. You all trust Jan and Lynn. Lynn trusts me. And through that warm introduction, that edification of who I am, that's what you're looking for. Warm introductions build trust. Social proof builds trust. If you've written a book, if you have a TEDx talk, whatever, if you have testimonials, all of that builds trust. And then it moves from the gut to the heart. And this is why Lynn and Jan are so successful, because boy, do they have heart. The likability factor is off the chart for them. So how do they do it? They have incredible empathy. And here's something to write down for your note takers. The better you explain someone's problem and show empathy for it, the better they think you have their solution. And even better, if you yourself have been in their shoes and have empathy from experiencing it, then you really are upping your likability factor. I can't tell you how important it is to be likable. Doctors spend more time with patients they like. Teachers spend more time with students they like. I was working with Gensler, the world's largest architecture firm, and they were up for $1 billion airport renovation of the Pittsburgh airport against 2 other firms. And the client literally said to them and the other 2 firms, you could all do the work. That's why you're in the final 3. We're going to hire the firm that we like the most because this project's going to take 6 years. They kind of panicked between you and me. They said, get John Livesay in here. What do we do with that? We just show our designs and hope that's enough to win the business. We don't even know where to start on our likability. So I worked with them on their team slide to tell personal story of origins to up their likability factors. Instead of what they were going to say, which is, my name is Bob. I've been here 10 years. I do this. But Bob, what made you become an architect? Oh, I was 11 years old. I played with Legos. And now I have a son that's 11. I still play with Legos. Sue, where'd you work before here? I was in the Israeli army. I said, okay, I bet you learned about discipline and focus. And since your job, if you get hired with the team, is going to be making sure this thing comes on time and under budget, you got the perfect background. And then we go to the head, gut, heart, head. That's a nice way for you to remember that. What is going on? It's still not pushing out information. Here's the unspoken question everybody has when they hear you pitch. Will this work for me? Whether someone's listening to you talk about a product or a service or a course or whatever it is, if you're not telling a story where they can see themselves in the story and going on the journey with you, they might like and trust you, but they're still not going to buy. And when Lynn and I would call on big ad agencies to run ads in the magazines where we were working, those media planners, that client had to feel that the idea that we tied to the ad spend was going to work and drive sales. If they didn't feel it was going to work for them, that's not our customer, it's not going to work. They wouldn't buy. They wouldn't make the decision to put us on the plan versus another one. So she and I have been through this many, many times together on accounts like Neutrogena that we split. And we had to brainstorm together, does this fit the Neutrogena brand? Will they? We know we've got some trust and likability. Now it's up to us to come up with something that they're going to see is going to work. And so we had an in-depth understanding of that brand and how they were drugstore, but connected to dermatologists. And so it was a premium price within a drugstore. And we had to prove that our readers would spend that and would buy that versus only going to a department store. So there's a lot of intricacies that Lynn and I worked so closely together for many years. And that's why we were successful, is we had all this going on. And that's what we're going to share with you today. So our promise to you, and I say our, Jan and Lynn and mine, because we've had several calls to make sure this is just what you need, is we're going to first make sure that you have logical confidence. And what do I mean by logical confidence versus just confidence? Our brain needs to know, why am I confident? Or why should I be confident? You know, the Arthur Ashe, the famous tennis pro, said, the key to success is confidence, and the key to confidence is preparation. So the more prepared you are before you have a presentation or a conversation with somebody, or even do a video for social media that Lynn is so great at doing, I can promise you, I know her pretty well. I'm sure she just doesn't wing it. She's thought out what she's going to say before that camera starts rolling. So preparation is the key. And what else is going on? Well, if we stay in the left side of our brain and only talk about facts and figures and how long we've been in business or whatever the data is, and the media world be like, some reps will say, oh, readers per copy and circulation growth and blah, blah, blah. It's like, what? No. People buy emotionally and then back it up with logic. And as I mentioned, the right brain is where emotions and storytelling and all that live. So now just do a favor for me. Cross your hands like you're praying. Now try to switch them the other way. Doesn't that feel awkward? Now cross your hands like you're mad. How dare you? Now put your arms the other way. Oh my gosh, I'm not even in yoga and I can't do that, right? So if you tend to be left brain, and I'm asking you to start telling more stories, it might feel a little awkward at first, but I promise you, like any new skill, you will get better at it. Because without this, you don't have a connection. You bore people, not intentionally. But when you get all these things to go together, you're going to soar and have confidence. And a lot of people tell me, I get a little nervous, especially when the stakes are high and I have to pitch something or myself. I get butterflies in my stomach. And I said, that's okay. The goal is to get those butterflies in your stomach to fly in formation. Get the nervous energy out of your stomach, make a gesture in the room. And by the way, if it's virtual, make sure you're making your gestures above your waist. Because if I'm making gestures down here, you can't see them. So that's another big tip. Gestures on camera. And get out of your head wondering if somebody likes you or not. And be of service to them. And stop worrying about what's in it for you and make it about them. Now, nobody says confidence to me like Lady Gaga. And here's a picture from her singing at the Academy Awards from Sound of Music, my childhood favorite, about I have confidence and confidence in me. And so one of the exercises I work with my clients and students on is doing something I call stacking your moments of certainty, where you literally write down 1 or 2 times or 3 times when you knew you nailed something. Oh, I got a second interview. I got a big sale. And then you write down the feeling that goes with it. I felt happy. I felt exhilarated. I felt proud. And when you do that and put those thoughts and feelings in your head, as opposed to the negative self-talk we can all say to ourselves, this is never going to work. I'm so, I really need money, whatever all that negativity is, you need to stack your moments of certainty. And in addition to storytelling, I'm going to give you a roadmap for the rest of this year and all of next year. Now, one of the things Lynn and I had to do forever, and it's been around forever, again, the old way of doing it is they would say, all right, how many clients do you have at 20% that you think might buy? And then how many are at 50%? And then how many are 90%? And then we'll take those numbers and try to come up with some projection of what we think you're going to sell this quarter, this month, this year, blah, blah, blah. And the problem, again, is nobody thinks of themselves as a percentage. So I'm going to invite you to put your empathy hat on and start thinking about where do they see you on this ladder? And if we start at the bottom, it's like dating. Maybe you go to a party and you see somebody you're attracted to and they don't even know you're in your room. You might as well be invisible. How many of your ideal prospects, your dream clients, don't know about you or your company? They think you're invisible. And then we move up to the insignificant rung. Again, back to dating. I don't know what's worse. I see you, but you're insignificant. But maybe in business, I don't know, let's say you're selling life insurance. Well, I'm not in the market for that. That's insignificant to me. Then we get up to the interesting rung. And maybe again, in that dating scenario, you say something funny or clever and they're like, oh, I'm interested. I'm not going out with you yet, but I'm at least interested to keep talking to you. And in the sales world, business world, we get so excited sometimes. We're like, oh, they asked for information. Send me a media kit. How many times do we hear that, Lynn? And you go, oh, I think they might buy. And it's like being stuck at the friend zone at work. Right? We're just like, oh, they're interested. And then I never hear from them again. This is where storytelling kicks in. And then a good story, like I did with Speedo, I said to them, what if? And I intrigued them enough to imagine something outside of the traditional way of running something in just a fitness magazine. And they were intrigued and they said, well, what else would that look like? And again, in the dating world, maybe you paint a picture of what the first date would look like. I know if anybody was trying to woo Lynn before she was married, man, they'd have to send a town car and there'd have to be champagne and roses and chocolates just for a first date to intrigue her. And then we get up to the irresistible rung. And of course, in the dating world, that's where you can't stop thinking about the person, right? You're texting them all the time. And we have clients that love us like that. We're irresistible. They are brand ambassadors. They talk about us to people. The challenge I want to offer you is make sure you're not taking any of your relationships for granted, whether it's personal or business, because somebody else could be knocking on their door. And if you're not remembering their birthday or all the things you need to do to make somebody feel that you appreciate being at this irresistible rung, then they may not stay there. So back to this analogy of how do I get to the top of this iceberg? How do I get to irresistible? It all comes down to storytelling. And a lot of people say to me, I don't feel like I have a story. And I said, really? You've never made a mistake in your life? You've never had a bad holiday Thanksgiving meal. You've never had a trip that didn't go right. There's all kinds of stories. And when I was giving my TEDx talk, they were telling us sometimes your mess is your story. Again, because that creates some vulnerability. People see themselves in your story. What's it like when that happens? So when we are at the place where we can tell our story to a potential client of why should we hire you or why should I buy this, it's typically boring case studies with a lot of data. In the case of Gensler, again, after we got through the likability factor, there's some beautiful before and after pictures, but no story. It was all data. And so if you're not looking at the screen, you might want to look at the screen right now, because here comes my Wizard of Oz moment. We're going to turn these boring case studies into an incredible case story that is compelling. So a story has 4 elements. Again, if you're taking notes, you might want to write this down. It's the exposition, the who, what, where, when. Paint that picture, draw us in with details. Again, describe that problem with a little bit of drama, the solution, and then the resolution. So important. Imagine if the Wizard of Oz had stopped when Dorothy got in the balloon to go back home. The end. And there wouldn't have been that resolution with her in bed saying, and you were there, and there's no place like home, and I learned all these life lessons. That's why that's such a classic. So when you're telling stories, make sure you have all 4 elements. With Gensler, here's the story that helped them win that $1 billion airport renovation. 2 years ago, JetBlue at JFK hired us to renovate the terminal. One of the things we had to do during that multi-year project was rip off all the tile in the middle of the night from 9 at night till 9 in the morning so that the stores could open on time and not lose revenue. So we had all our vendors on call in case anything went wrong. And sure enough, at 2 in the morning, a fuse blew. The vendor got there in 20 minutes, fixed everything. And at 8:59, the last tile went down and all the stores opened on time. And now a year later, sales are up 15% because we designed a place that pulls people in to shop and spend more money. So you see, the old way of doing that would be corporate speak. We use critical thinking to anticipate problems. I showed that in the story by having all the vendors on call. A little bit of drama, 8:59, even a gesture, the last tile went down, painting the picture. The resolution to that story is sales are up 15% a year after the design. The solution is just the stores opened on time. So those are the kind of emotional hooks you want to have in your stories. I'm going to give you one more example from the healthcare. I worked with Olympus, the camera company that happens to also have a medical division using their technology. And they were saying, oh, our equipment makes the surgeries go 30% faster. Sounds like a left brain comment to me. So now they just say, imagine how happy Dr. Higgins was at Long Beach Memorial 6 months ago using our equipment, and he could go out to the patient's family in the waiting room. And if you've ever been in the waiting room waiting for someone you love to come out of surgery, you know every minute feels like an hour. And he came out and put them out of their waiting misery an hour earlier than expected. And said, good news, the scope shows there's no cancer. Your loved one's going to be great. The doctor turns to the rep and says, you know, that's why I became a doctor, for moments like that. Now that rep, she tells that story to another doctor. And that doctor sees herself in the story and says, you know what? That's why I became a doctor too. I want your equipment. Boom. They're closing more sales because they're telling better stories. So now we're going to work on fixing your elevator pitch, which is at the beginning of any funnel. Well, you're always going to have, whether we're in a pandemic or not, people saying, hey, what do you do? Tell me about yourself. A lot of people, as I said, can bore people. They make the mistake of thinking it's a 10-minute invitation for a monologue. We want to inspire people to say, tell me more. We certainly don't want to confuse people. Again, if you're taking notes, the confused mind always says no. And finally, we don't want to stumble through it and act like we've never thought about this. We want to soar through it. So your pitch, whether it's your elevator pitch or any pitch, should be 3 things: clear, concise, and compelling. That's your 3 checklists. All right, so we're going to do it now. I'm going to give you an example. I have 5 steps. I'm going to show you mine. The first 3 steps are just in the first sentence. So I'm going to say it a little slower than I normally do so you can see how it flows. Here we go. You know how salespeople struggle not to be seen as a commodity when they pitch. I'm known as the pitch whisperer, and I teach people how to tell stories. And when that happens, they become revenue rock stars. The mistake most people make is saying, I sell this, I'm a nurse, I'm a plumber, I'm a doctor, I'm an attorney. And we want to make it conversational by starting, you know how. That's how you talk to your friends. You know how this past summer was so hot, my electric bill was crazy. Then we still don't make it about yourself. We go into who are you helping? In my case, I said salespeople. And then if you want to describe their problem, insert the word struggle. They struggle not to be seen as a commodity. And then I've planted some seeds. I'm the pitch whisperer. People go, what? What's a pitch whisperer? I know dog whisperer, horse whisperer. The whole goal of this is to get people to say, tell me more about that. Or revenue rockstar, that sounds cool. What do you mean stories can help me sell better? We're not trying to say everything. We're just saying a couple of things.
We do have some questions. Can we? Okay. First question, how does your video fit into your storytelling? This is from Michael.
Yeah, so if you're creating a video for social media, the best videos are the ones that tell a story following the structure of exposition, problem, solution, resolution. So videos are short stories, just like an elevator pitch.
One other question, how does the pitch replace the mission statement?
A mission statement is what you come up with for your whole purpose. And once you have the mission statement defined, then you can decide what your pitch is going to be based on your mission statement. So let's say, for example, Pam, her mission statement is to help make corporate America more diverse and inclusive. So there, from that mission statement, we came up with the elevator pitch. You know how corporate executives struggle to make this happen. She's the Sherpa, so they don't have to feel like they're climbing Mount Everest alone. And when that happens, they get a better team, and clients and customers are, when they're looking up the company, are saying, oh, that's the kind of company I want to do business with.
John, the difference between a pitch and a tagline.
Oh, a tagline. Just do it. Nike's tagline, just do it. If you were working for Nike and you had to sell to convince Nordstrom's to carry Nike more than Reebok, your pitch would have to involve describing the case story of another department store that carried Nike instead of Reebok and how their sales took off based on how Nike supports you. Any other last minute questions? Again, you can reach out to me if you have questions about what's in the course, what's not in the course. But I'm really looking forward to working with a lot of you because I know this group and I'm a big supporter of what this group's mission statement is.
John, one more question. How has COVID changed the way in which we think about telling our stories, particularly because there's so much noise in every vertical now? Yeah. And so many companies have moved their products and services and their content online. Mm-hmm. Any quick tips or recommendations you have for how we need to think about tweaking how we get our message across during this time period?
Storytelling is more important than ever now, Jan, because we need to be like a shapeshifter from Matrix. And the stories are always going to cut through the clutter. And if you don't have the ability to see people face to face and read their body language, your story can do that for you. Plato said storytellers rule the world, and it's just as true then as it is now. And especially when in a time of isolations, it's the stories that make us feel connected. And that emotional connection is everything. And I love helping people get that emotional connection, whether it's Rose with her clients or whether it's a company like Olympus, it's all the same thing. We're connecting emotionally with people, and it's a skill you can use in your personal life as well.
So I have one.
Sure, Lynn.
So, John, one of the things I was listening to when you were taking people through the elevator pitch, mm-hmm. and through the steps that I think are really, really important because they craft the story.
Yes.
Should people feel compelled to, if they're going through the steps and they have something complicated like Pam did?
Yeah.
How can they be reassured that they should tell that whole story and not feel that they have to get this into 2 minutes or 10 seconds, like people say, oh, you have to get them or you lose them? Because I think the steps are what make it so compelling. So
Yes.
I think you need to go through that and not have this in your mind, oh, I'm losing them because, I lost him at the first 10 seconds.
You won't lose somebody at the first 10 seconds if you're telling a story. People always have time for a good story. And remember, Amazon just sold books first. The biggest mistake I see people making is trying to tell everybody everything they do. The goal, again, is just to intrigue people enough to say, oh, do you do other things too? So pick the one, make sure your elevator pitch in any story has something that's intriguing enough to want to have a conversation. All right. It's been an honor and a privilege. Thank you, Jan and Lynn. And best of luck. We all need to stay healthy. If any of you want to go on the journey with me, I promise it'll be a fun ride and you're going to come out a much better storyteller and more irresistible than ever. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and don't forget to hit the bell to receive notifications of all of our upcoming content. Thanks, everyone. See you soon. Have a great day.